This is the Lifestream Final Fantasy Podcast, episode number 18, for April the 21st, 2016. Hello everyone, and welcome to this crazy show we call the Lifestream Final Fantasy Podcast. I am the ever-loving blue thing known as Vader SW1 on the forums, and joining me on this mythic quest into all things Final Fantasy are the one, the only, Captain Steve Rogers, also known as JasonTandro.
Can you believe we're still fucking doing this show after 18 episodes, guys? Woo!
Legal motherfuckers! And on the other side of the spectrum, we've got the dashing Tony Stark, also known as Ryushikaze.
I am Iron Man. And I really want to sleep with Black Widow.
No doubt. I mean, what self-respecting guy doesn't want to sleep with Black Widow? I mean, seriously.
I can hear our regular viewers just going, "What the fuck?"
Hawkeye, because he has Velma.
Okay, fair enough.
And he is right to be afraid of her.
So yeah, for those of you just joining us for the first time, we're usually not referring to ourselves as superheroes, but I'm just going with the flow. And basically what this show will be about is for an hour or so every few weeks, we'll discuss all things Final Fantasy and Final Fantasy related. We'll hit upon recent news and notes and delve into a different topic of discussion each episode. If you have a recommendation for something we should discuss, feel free to hit us up at lifestreampod@gmail.com or comment on the episode posts on the forums each week. And I just got back from vacation and fucking realized that the week that I was gone on vacation, apparently Final Fantasy news went apeshit. So
That's the best way to put it.
We have a lot of news and notes to get into, so there's really no main topic this week. It's all about the news and notes, and we're also going to get into some listener feedback here. So without further ado, let's get into news and notes. First of all, to open up with the news and notes, I owe an apology. A correction. We mentioned a shout out to forum member Awatu, who actually had a piece of artwork appear in the Final Fantasy 15 calendar that was shown at the Uncovered event. And we mentioned, Lex and I mentioned that we thought Awato was male. That is incorrect. Awato is female, so I very much apologize for that, Awato. Hope you continue to listen to us.
You misgendering scum.
I know, right?
Go flay yourself alive on the altar of social justice.
I know, right?
There was a lot of good stuff about 15. My God, I need to apologize real quick since we're on this topic. I was going to be in the last podcast and brag about how fast I cleared Platinum Demo and how I had uncovered everything except for the Shuriken, which I had to be told about. And I was like super cool and super excited because I found a gold plate that like nobody knew about yet, but then they did. But I was having problems on my own. My computer decided to die literally the day of the podcast. So pro tip, if you're buying a computer from Walmart, do not get the cheapest option because you get what you pay for.
If you're buying a computer from Walmart, don't.
Well, there's that too, I suppose. I tried to fix it myself. It wasn't covered under warranty. Get this. So I didn't buy the extended warranty, which is great because it said, oh, well, one of the cords apparently got unplugged from there, and it was actually part of the thing was actually in the hard drive itself, and they're like, nah, you might be able to save the hard drive, but we can't give you a warranty refund on this, which is fine. But then I decided to try and fix it myself. It didn't work. So I decided to run a few tests of my own, namely stress testing the hull against a baseball bat. And the results were inconclusive. So
That's amazing. That's a great story.
Yeah. It's always a good story. Yeah. It's but yeah, I like the uncovered stuff. That's all I have to say on the subject. Let's get with plenty of news from that.
Yeah, so we'll start out here with a little bit of Kingdom Hearts news. Kingdom Hearts Key has been released to Android and iOS in North America as of April the 7th. I know you've spent some time with it, JT. What are your initial thoughts on this?
Are you talking about Unchained X, which is what I'm
Unchained
doing?
Key, yes.
Is that the same thing?
Yes.
Oh, Unchained.
Yeah.
Okay.
X is pronounced
Key,
key.
yeah.
Because terrible puns.
Because of course it is. Okay. Unchained Key. Yeah, I played through about an hour's worth of the game. Honestly, it's pretty much what you would expect from a mobile game. If you like Record Keeper, you might like this one. I actually thought Record Keeper was pretty damn good as far as a mobile game. It's probably the best we're gonna get. But suffice to say, I mean, pretty much what it is it's your bog standard action-ish swipe and kill things game. The best things about this by far, and this is really hugely important, it feels like a Kingdom Hearts game. It really does. In terms of the art and the music, you feel like you're playing Kingdom Hearts, which honestly would have been so easy to turn this into like fucking All the Bravest, where you just and it doesn't feel like anything. I'm gonna mention that till the day I die, by the way, as exact not to do, as will everybody who's played it. But no, it feels great. There's some problems with it. At this point, the story is really kind of lame. Apparently, I've been told by my friend Taylor that you got to get to the end before you get to the really good story bits, which, okay, fine, I'll do that. And there's some complicated setup, which fans of like old school RPGs will really like, because you can your characters a lot. But ultimately, when you come down to it, you're fighting Heartless in small turn-based attacks, and because of the way the combat is 9 times out of 10, they're not even going to get a chance back in the early missions. I'm sure that gets harder. I'm sure that ramps up, and I'm sure there's more to it with the medals. But ultimately, like I say, I mean, look at the screen caps, look at some of the playthroughs. If you look like you'll like it, you probably will. If not, you won't.
Is it a freemium game?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't run into any premium currency as of yet, though it's in the game. You can get through the game without it. Like Record Keeper, to its credit, there's not really a whole lot of microtransaction requirements. It's not like, pay to win or nonsense but it's a mobile game. There's going to be microtransactions. It's like asking if an EA game will be incomplete at release. So.
Good call, man. I have not bothered with it, and I don't think I'm going to. I think I'm going to wait for this Kingdom Hearts 2.8 that's on the way, that supposedly is going to have some of the Unchained key stuff in it, so I'll just catch whatever they're doing with that in there. I'm sure they're just going to insert the story plot points from it into that, so I'll just check it out from there. I do agree with you about Record Keeper. I thought Record Keeper was a really good game, but it quickly became a thing where it was a huge time waste, and I felt like I was spending way too much time with it, and there was so much new stuff rolling out all the time, and I was falling behind. I'm like, you know what, fuck it, I can't keep up with it anymore, so I gave it up.
Yeah, and that's the problem. They're trying to appeal to people who've already heard to the story, but with them having like a new event like every fucking 2 weeks, I got bored with it. I'm like, you know what, I'm spending all my time doing the events. I'm not actually clearing through the game itself. But the thing is, if you are able to turn that part of your brain off and just ignore the events out, you can really get through a lot. And like I say, it's easy enough to get the beginning because it does have an auto battle feature, but you can also customize it, and a lot of the boss fights require some tactics. And I mean, apart from the fact that it's just basically a battle simulator, it actually feels pretty solid. Like I say, it's about as good as they're going to get until they start. Well, it's as good as they're going to get until they stop doing microtransactions.
Yeah, and that's kind of one of my biggest beefs with Record Keeper is that the randomness of being able to get decent equipment, and you have to spend a lot of real currency if you want to get a lot of decent equipment. And there's the complications with being able to get the right orbs to make the right spells and all this shit. And some of the boss battles are insanely difficult without having the right spells. And you can only get those if you can get the right orbs. And it just, I got discontent
some of those
with
event
it.
Bosses. Some of those event bosses are insane. Yeah. Even if you have a level 60 party, you'll get trounced unless you have exactly the right tools. That's why I haven't done any hard modes for the most part.
Yeah.
I'll go into like the first one, get through the first part of the first dungeon, and I will already be like 3 guys dead. Yeah. I'm out of MP. Like, damn it.
Yeah.
Well, not MP charges, but
For sure. Yeah, so moving on from that. Also, big news for the Bravely Default fans. Bravely Second and Layer was released finally to North America on Nintendo 3DS on April 15th. I have not gotten a chance to play it yet. Like I said, I was on vacation last week. I'm hoping to be able to play a little bit of it soon. And maybe I'll write up a little review, or maybe give a little review on on a future episode of the podcast here. But I haven't had a chance to get to it yet.
I'm still going through to clear out everything in the demo before I start, but I'm liking the changes that they've made to the battle system.
See, and I've heard some real divisiveness about that, Ryu, about the changes to the battle system. I've heard it kind of forsakes the gameplay for in some instances.
What are you like? What specific change are people talking about that forsakes the gameplay?
As it pertains to, I guess, some of the jobs and the abilities, I haven't played it yet, so I really don't know the specifics. It just sounds like some people are complaining about there being too many jobs or maybe too many abilities and stuff, and it forsakes the gameplay.
I mean, I think there's about the same as there were in the original.
Yeah, I don't know.
And they just lost a few and gained a few. Most of the changes that I like are the fact that instead of having to keep wandering to find another boss battle or another fight that you have to beat in one turn with no damage, or et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and to continue your streak, after you complete a single battle in a single turn, you can choose to automatically go into the next battle for a multiplier on your rewards.
Oh, that's awesome.
And keep doing that until you can't do that, and that cuts down the grinding considerably.
Oh, the
grinding
was
the
fucking
worst
great.
Part about the original, and it's considerably more fun in this one.
That's fucking great, man. What a great idea.
Yeah.
Well, that makes me more excited to play it.
Yeah. So, like, if you do one battle, you get that one battle, that reward. Then you go for 2 battles, you get those 2 battles rewards with a multiplier. 3 battles, you get their rewards with a slightly bigger multiplier, etc., etc., etc. I've only managed to get up to a 5x battle multiplier, or 5x battles, which is a 2.5, I think, or 2.8 multiplier on rewards. But you get all of the rewards, which start out very small, but then you keep building up. So
it almost reminds me of like the battle square in Final Fantasy VII.
Kinda, yeah.
It's kind of all or nothing. If you lose, I would assume if you lose in the midst of that battle, you get nothing out of it, right?
Oh, I mean, if you lose, you're dead. But
yeah,
you don't have to. Like you only have to complete the battles in a single round to get access to the next battle. You don't lose your multiplier.
Oh, right on.
Yeah. So if you get up to 4 and you can't complete the 5th battle in 1, you've already got the multiplier for accepting the battle.
Right on. Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome.
And occasionally the game will reward you with the party is feeling brave and give you a stock, so you can keep going.
Outstanding. Yeah, that makes me excited to get into it here. I mean, I'm right now. I'm so fucking far behind on Final Fantasy V. It's not even funny. So,
yeah.
Bravely Second is not in the near future for me. I got to get Final Fantasy V wrapped up.
Yeah, I need to finish it up myself.
I literally just finished the fire powered ship quest thing.
Ooh, wow! Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
so
I've got to take my battles on a different level, because I've got to do it with a single character and a gimmick. But yeah, I'm still. I mean, I'm in Exdeath's castle, so. Then after that, the game just sort of becomes a very quick mop up.
For sure, depending on how you set up your party. Right now,
my party is set up to be a mime.
Oh no, I get that. I'm just saying. I right now what I'm using, I've got everybody's running freelancers, and I've got the barehanded ability on everybody, so I'm basically punchy everything.
Ah, the Final Fantasy II strategy.
Yes. And it's highly effective.
It is. Yeah, the one thing I might have to do, and I might depending on how the game reacts to certain scenes, I may just because I've replaced Bart's with Kryl, and the game has already acted weird about that substitution already. So there may be other times when I accidentally lose a party member. and I may need to shuffle one of my Cryels for my Galef so that the Galef gets taken instead of the Cryel. But I think I might do a plot-relevant power-up at that point and just have her max out all of the other classes so she can become the Omni-Mime instead of the Mega-Mime.
Nice.
Partly because I think I'm going to actually need the stats that gives her for the end game.
Right. Are you using some type of cheat device to do so?
I mean, I have to use a cheat device to do what I'm doing.
Well, yeah.
But I'm probably, yes, I'm going to do a max AP after every fight thing, just so I can, because I'm going to try and max out Mime naturally, and I'm already most of the way there. And then after that, just sort of, do it at a place where it'd be good for the LP narrative that I'm trying to construct.
Nice.
Probably in the the second big fight against X-Death that I'm not going to say much more about. Because spoilers.
Where are you at, JT? Are you done?
I've been done for ages, dude. I was doing along with the community playthrough, so
I knew you were, but I didn't know if you ended up pausing on it since everybody else was still trying to play catch up or whatever. So
no, what I haven't done is I haven't started 6 yet. For a couple reasons. One, I don't want to constantly be done when you guys are just starting, because that's not really playing with you guys.
Yeah.
But more importantly, I am currently in the middle of playing Morrowind, and that is a long game.
Also released last week, Final Fantasy IX was released to Steam finally on April 14th, 2016. I know our friend Lex was probably absolutely ecstatic about that. Did you guys pick it up?
I did not, but I know someone who did, and I might pick up that version for when we do the playthrough. That has a few anti-grinding features added.
Similar to what they did with the Final Fantasy VII release to PS4?
Yeah, though not quite as hilarious. Though one of them is, once you equip an item's ability, you just automatically master it.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that eliminates a lot of grinding.
Wow.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah, I might be in on that too then.
Honestly, I mean, call me stupid or maybe or whatever, but I honestly didn't find the being in 9 for learning abilities as bad as, say, compared to mastering some of the jobs in 5.
Or 3.
Or 3. Fuck 3. No, 3 is right out.
3, I mean, 3 you can cheese like crazy. 5 you actually have to put work in. Unless you find the one monster and cheese it.
Objet d'art or whatever the hell it's called in the basement.
The Objet d'art is one of them, but then there's the movers later. Because the movers give out a lot of AP.
How much is? I didn't catch the price on the Final Fantasy IX Steam. Do you guys know what it's running by any chance?
I think. Hold on, I will double check.
No, I'm probably gonna be running with my old school copy. Although
$20.99
might be worth running on the Steam.
$20.99.
$20.99.
Yeah.
Wow, that's actually really good.
That's kind of steep for a PSX original.
I mean, they've done a lot to, the game itself. In fact, I think they technically had to remake it. Oh yeah, they definitely sped up the battle transitions, especially. It doesn't take nearly as long to get into battles. All of the models have been redone. The only thing that's original is they're still using the old backgrounds, which do sort of stand out against the very sharp, crisp new models for everybody.
Yeah.
But the sound's been remastered, the models have been redone, all the effects. It is gorgeous.
9 is a superior game anyways. I was willing to drop 16 on that version from Steam. I'll drop 20 on 9. So
yeah, I will definitely have to check it out, even if it is running a little bit high. I will definitely have to check it out, especially if it's got the less grindy elements to it. I'm in. I'm definitely going to play the PS4 Final Fantasy VII for sure, just because of being able to go to what is it, 3x speed or something like that, 4x speed.
yes.
To basically eliminate the amount of time to grind. So.
Oh God, yeah, I will, but there's a problem. I'm having my PS4 because I had planned to do that, and then I was going to do the Steam versions of 8, and like I say, maybe the Steam version of 9. My PS4 the other day stopped working, and it's just the HDMI port, which should be a fix. But I actually have to get somebody who can actually do that fix. So I'm hoping my brother-in-law.
Shitty, dude.
Dude, that and I haven't been able to play my fucking Final Fantasy 14 in almost a week now, which I'm having withdrawal symptoms.
I was gonna say, are you going through crack withdrawal, like scratching your veins and shit?
Yes.
Twitching.
I've been carrying around a piece of cardboard underneath me with an XP bar. It's bad, dude. No, but yeah, I'm hoping he can fix it. He's like a higher up Geek Squad, like one of like the regional. So
wait, so he couldn't help you with your computer problem? Was he the one that gave you the advice to take the baseball bat to it?
No, that was a bit of a soul searching moment for me.
Was that kind of like that scene in Office Space where they're beating down the fucking printer?
Oh, dude, you have not seen any of my destruction videos, and no, you might have to link it for the joy of the audience. We used to have a recurring thing in my friends where we would take our old electronics that had stopped working, stuff like old Sega Genesises and PS3 at one point, and several computers, and just make a ritual destruction of them. And there are some videos on YouTube that you have to see, and I will definitely link to you two, because oh my God, there is no catharsis like destroying electronics catharsis.
Okay, I'll take your word for it.
Dude, in the first one we ever did was a laptop, and my friend unloaded a 9mm into it. So that's all I got to say.
Okay.
Lord.
All right, so moving into some Final Fantasy 15 news. The active time, there was a recent active time report actually just took place earlier today. Tabata stated off topic for Final Fantasy 15, which was kind of bizarre. Tabata said he actually couldn't finish playing Final Fantasy 2. Which I thought was amazing because Final Fantasy 2 does fucking suck. So
can we get through one podcast without riling up shit?
He said on a similar note during the interview, Tabata apparently was asked which Final Fantasy game he played the most and which one was his favorite. And he responded, Final Fantasy 1. It's the only one I've ever played through.
So he hasn't completed any of the other ones.
Yeah, apparently.
So
Final
by
Fantasy
your
7...
logic, they all suck.
He said Final Fantasy VII, though, appealed to me the most. I think Final Fantasy 15 will be the first for me to play through since Final Fantasy 1. His personal favorite is Final Fantasy 6, however.
He has good taste.
Yeah.
He should finish them.
He apologized about his comments regarding Final Fantasy 13. He mentioned that he's a fan himself and that the comment he made was meant to be about a comparison between the technologies of Final Fantasy 13 and Final Fantasy 15. The teaser trailer for Kingsglaive has been viewed over 2 million times in total, and the Brotherhood anime episode 1 apparently has been viewed over 4 million times. It's pretty impressive.
Yep.
Pretty impressive.
Yep. Oh my God. Brotherhood, if you have not seen it, you need to watch it.
It's that first episode is really good. Specifically, the end is really good. Apparently, the development team is glad they had gotten more people to know about the Final Fantasy 15 universe now through the anime and the movie. They didn't plan to do the little slot thing that showed the November 30th tease at first before it rolled back to September. They apparently didn't plan to do that before the release date got leaked, and apparently was planned at the last minute. So, trying to play a little joke on us, apparently. Troll us a bit.
It got leaked. They might as well have fun with it.
Yeah. Might as well troll us about it for a minute. Tabata's daughter apparently told him that his English is terrible.
It wasn't that bad.
No, it definitely wasn't.
You know,
Sakaguchi's English was pretty good too.
Yeah.
I thought. You don't have to watch the Final Fantasy 15 anime or movie to play the game. Apparently, I figured that was going to be the case.
But you do have to play Fallout 4. It's plot critical. We have no idea why.
Apparently, the next active time report will be at E3 2016.
Ooh.
They stated that pre-orders for Final Fantasy 15 are doing better than Square Enix imagined in Japan. So I assume that's huge news for them.
And considering how much they were expecting Tomb Raider to sell, that's a lot.
Yeah.
Oh, why are you so salty?
I'm not
You mad, bro?
It's just funny to make fun of them.
You mad, bro?
Square is.
Yeah.
Because they're mad at the Academy.
Ermagerd! Kingsglaive Final Fantasy 15 Japan. What's that?
Ermagerd. Term murder.
Kingsglaive Final Fantasy 15 Japanese theatrical release date apparently has not been announced, and they have no idea how it will be streamed or downloadable or what have you. So, no news. Justice Monsters 5 releases on Android next week, iOS in June, and Windows 10 in the summer. They said 90,000 Japanese users have registered for the game already. I'd be curious to know what that number actually is worldwide.
That's
bizarre.
90,000. That's all there is to Japan. Japan is the world.
Bizarre that they staggered the iOS release to June. It's kind of odd. Square Enix confirmed they will be producing 10,000 more Ultimate Collector's Edition worldwide for the game, but they can't promise it will arrive on the day of Final Fantasy 15's release.
There was some drama over that because there were the people who were complaining that, oh man, it's not really a collector's edition anymore if you're just going to make more of them. Like, really, dude?
Considering how much it fucking costs, yes, it's a collector's edition.
Yeah, and if there is fucking drama about that, fuck them, because it's more than like the people causing the drama are probably the assholes that bought like 18 of them and wanted to resell them for $8,000 a piece.
Yeah.
But even the elitists who are like not trying to do that for just their own personal gain, but the ones who are like buy it and then like, because there are people out there, and I know somebody personally who, I swear to God this is true, went out and bought the collector's edition of, I want to say it was 13.2, didn't open it, and bought a day one copy from GameStop, just the game itself, and he played that version, never opened the collector's edition, left it in the box. Why? Why? Like,
Why
if you're
indeed?
not like, it's not even like the Star Wars toys which you keep in the box just to look at them because they're pretty. Like, you can't even do half. You don't open the box. I don't know.
Yeah,
People are stupid.
for sure. I just the people that are bitching about the Square releasing the 10,000 more copies can go fuck off. I mean, really, I don't understand their bitch. I think Square did this. I think the reason why Square did this, it was pure because of how quickly this sold out, how many problems there actually were on various servers, and basically they heard the stories about the scalpers buying shit tons of these. So here's what I will say: the other piece of this puzzle that Square could do to really be go all out about this is to stipulate one per customer, not multiple copies. One per customer.
There are always going to be ways around that. I mean, especially if you're talking about online orders, you open a new window, enter new information, you got your copy. I mean, there's always ways around.
I don't disagree with that, but the chances of you landing 20 copies of it when it goes on sale become less likely unless you're running some kind of script like a scalper does.
Well, so but again, that's kind of the problem, because the ones who like legitimately have, you got two kids, they both want their own copy, they live states away, you want to buy two copies, you can't, but the scalpers still get their shit. The thing, like I said, there's no security in the world that can't be breached, and that's why people are shitty. So yeah.
It was complete and utter bullshit. Anyway, moving on from that. Sorry for my angry
Moving
rant.
on from the negativity.
Anyway, yeah. The last little piece of thing that came out of that active time report was Tabata yet again confirmed the game will feature a new game plus mode. So that's kind of cool, I guess, for replayability for those that want to go back through the game. So
I have always liked New Game Plus. I think the first game I played that had a New Game Plus feature was, must have been like maybe Threads of Fate or something like that, one of the older games. And just the idea of being able to go back and play through it again with your stuff, really, it creates a new level because it's no longer can I beat the bosses, can I get through the game? Obviously you can. It's about sheer catharsis. It's like, yes, I can do this, and I'm destroying everything. In fact, Lightning Returns is pretty much based around the New Game Plus because you have to play it multiple times to get everything. So I like New Game Plus. I'm glad they're adding that.
could Resident Evil 2 be considered a new game plus kind of game?
I haven't played Resident Evil 2, so I can tell you.
Ryu?
Pretty much any game where you can start over and retain something from the previous playthrough could be argued to be New Game Plus.
I guess it really isn't then. Ryu, have you ever played Resident Evil 2?
Yes, I've played Resident Evil 2. And because Resident Evil 2 has bonuses that you can get for completion that you can carry over to a new game, yes, it is a New Game Plus game.
Okay, perfect. So Resident Evil 2 was the first and only new game plus I've ever bothered with. I know that Final Fantasy 4 you can play back through and all that shit. I've never bothered with it. So
Well, that's only Final Fantasy 4 DS.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah. So anyway, yeah. So moving on from the active time report, some news about Dissidia Final Fantasy, the forthcoming arcade game to Japan. Garland was revealed to be the first villain in Dissidia Final Fantasy, pretty apropos. So there's also been some updates regarding World of Final Fantasy, and this one really blew up while I was gone. I know several of us on this podcast have been very negative towards this game, including myself, because of the cutesy, chibi art style and just overall meh of the game. But I'll go ahead and go over this for those of us that are looking forward to World of Final Fantasy. Apparently they introduced something called Mirages, which are beasts that you can fight alongside. You can capture Mirages by meeting certain conditions. There are stronger Mirages that you can come across by luck or chance in a location called the Dark Crevasse. You can level up your Mirage through spending skill points on your Mirage board. If you evolve your Mirages, then you can keep some of the skills acquired. New Mirages announced are Sea Snake, Taimai, I would assume is how that's pronounced. Ryu?
Tiamat.
Is that what it is?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Red Dragon, Leviathan, Adamantoise, and Ultima Weapon.
I'm assuming that it's a
misspelling.
Yeah, I'm assuming it's a typo because I've never heard of a Taimai before.
Yeah, me neither. Unless we're talking about a drink.
Yeah.
That's what you order when you've already got a few Taimais.
Yeah, exactly. Several Mirage support abilities were also announced, such as Trotting, Rattling, Burning, Chilly, Rumbling, and Flapping. And apparently these abilities do various things, such as sending your Mirage on hunts for items, burning down foliage, putting out fires, and taking you to places that are high up.
It's a specific type of Adamantoise. It's an Adamantaimai.
Okay.
Okay,
Gotcha.
That's why I didn't recognize it.
Gotcha, so it was abbreviated then.
Yeah.
Okay, makes sense. Squall Leonhart from Final Fantasy VIII, Rifia from Final Fantasy III, and a new robot version of Sid have been announced as characters for the world of Final Fantasy.
Can I say the robot Sid is the coolest thing in this entire announcement so far?
For sure, yeah, I thought so too. New locations announced include Cornelia from Final Fantasy I, not
I
really
like
new.
Swords.
Balam Garden from Final Fantasy VIII, and the Ancient Library from Final Fantasy V. And you can see more about this game at Square's website, which I will provide a link to in the show notes. Moving on from the world of Final Fantasy, unless you guys had anything else about it.
Nope.
All right. New information has also been released about the forthcoming Theatrhythm Final Fantasy All-Star Carnival arcade game, also being released only to Japan at this point. Apparently, per a video of a tutorial release for the game, it shows that you will now have to play the game two-handed, and that there will be commands that require the player to do two things at once, which looks pretty challenging from the video here, and I'll actually include a link to the video so you can see it for yourself, but it looks like it adds a new challenging element to the game, as if it wasn't challenging enough already. So, thoughts about that?
I like the Theatrhythm I played.
I know you do.
I'm not like huge into the series, but I had fun with it, and moving it up is always good. Hope we get a US release.
Yeah,
Me too.
I know friends who I'm going to have to stage interventions for this because they are addicted to Theatrhythm.
Okay, and moving on to some more Final Fantasy 15 news, and this was the big newsmaker here. Actually, before we get to the big newsmaker, I missed one piece of it. Apparently, Final Fantasy 15 director Hajime Tabata and the creator of Final Fantasy, Hironobu Sakaguchi, did a live stream with Famitsu through Nico Nico on 4/14, but apparently nobody has produced any kind of summary or English summary as to what took place in that conversation. So if anyone finds a summary of that, please feel free to email that over to us at lifestreampod@gmail.com, and I will be happy to go over that on the next episode. I could not find anything about it, so for
also,
some mysterious reason. Sorry, Hajime.
Not Hajime.
Sorry.
Basically, viewers, basically listeners, you have a homework assignment.
Yeah.
So
yeah. I tried searching
for us.
I tried searching for several days looking for some kind of English write-up on this and could find nothing. In fact, I couldn't even find anything, even in Japanese, detailing what that conversation was. So I would have liked to have heard what it was.
Is a strange sort of... it's a YouTube alternative, and it can be kind of hard to navigate at times.
I just kind of bizarre that even Famitsu doesn't even have a write-up about it on their website.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, moving on from that, this was the big newsmaker. Gaming magazine Game Informer had a really big spread about Final Fantasy 15 in their latest issue. Really, I'm not going to spoil everything that was in this issue because there's a lot of really good information in it, and I really think you guys should go out and try and pick it up for yourself and read it. You can either buy a copy of it at your local GameStop, or you can subscribe to it digitally as well and read it online. So I made some notes about some specific things that I thought would be cool to go over on the show here. So one of the things here is that, again, it was reiterated that Final Fantasy 15 is in fact not part of the Fabula Nova Crystallis series. And it is because of this that it contributed to why the game changed so much, including Stella's role in the story. And apparently this was done to help make Final Fantasy 15 its own story and move it away from Versus 13.
So we can officially say that Versus 13 then is, I guess, dead?
Yeah, from the sounds of it. Yeah, it's just completely gone.
It has been reborn. It lives again. Witness it.
Except for Stella, apparently.
Stella is Luna.
Yeah.
The game is dead along with the game.
People are getting mad about a character we knew nothing about now has a different name.
Yeah.
Because if you look at the character model, you can definitely see where they went with Stella. I mean, it's really no different than the fact that at the very, very early stages of Final Fantasy VII, the character who now has the character name and model of Tifa used to belong to the name and model of Aerith.
Really?
I'm having flashbacks to the very first episode of this podcast, just where we've already discussed the whole Stella controversy.
Yeah.
Stella!
Hey, fun fact. Did you know that in Final Fantasy X, Titus's hair was originally going to be, instead of blonde?
I mean, he has dyed it, so yay. You can actually see the roots.
Titus, who gives a fuck?
It's technically
I like
Tita.
to think that the chlorine bleached it, actually.
It bleached his brain, certainly.
Well, if it was chlorine, wouldn't it have turned his hair green? I've seen blonde hairdos turn green in chlorine.
Yeah. I mean, chlorine will turn a lot of things green. If you ingest it, if you're lucky.
Yeah.
If you're not, you'll start turning black and then rotting away.
Yeah. Okay, moving on.
This went, wow, places.
Moving on, okay.
Chlorine ain't nothing to fuck with, dude.
So, moving on to the next piece of news here. Apparently the dog seen in the trailers is a faithful servant named Umbra. So, there's been some speculation about the dog. Speculate no more. Its name is Umbra, and apparently is some kind of faithful servant.
He's your friend. He's your puppy.
Yes. There will be instrumental versions of real-world songs such as Heart of Gold by Neil Young to help push the theme of fantasy based on reality. And oddly
what was that one they did in the trailer that they had a remastering of? The remaster.
You talking about the cover?
What was the song they had in the?
You talking about
the cover? Thank you.
Stand by Me? You talking about Stand by Me by Florence and the Machine?
Oh my god! I'm sorry.
I still cannot. Like, I was trying to remember its real name, and all I can think of is "Take on Me." Like, I have a mental block. I know it's wrong, but it's just that's the only thing that comes into my head.
Just think of the phenomenal Stand by Me film, and it'll come to you properly.
Which I think would also have improved for having "Take on Me" in it.
Okay, but fine. If they're doing this and they're sticking in this little like mid '80s to early '90s vibe, there had better they need to end it. The final song in the game needs to be fucking "Don't Forget About Me" and have not just walk off into the shadows.
For sure, yes. They should totally do like a Breakfast Club ending. Yes, I'm in.
Oh god!
Fuck you, Square. Take my money. Take all
Get
of my money.
Ninja rap in.
Oh.
Quick, somebody get on
some
change
under pressure.
Okay, yeah. As seen in the Platinum demo, weapons can be switched using the D-pad, and there are different tabs for swords, daggers, lances, firearms, shields, royal arms, and elemental spells. Weapons can be upgraded from materials gathered and won from battle. Noctis' stats can only be improved through AP, and there is a weapon slot for machinery, possibly like what we saw in the last active time report before the one this morning.
I really like the new combat system. I think it's a lot more polished than what we got in Duscae.
Yeah, I liked it a lot. It was very simple.
It's simple, but intuitive as hell, because I felt, again, when you're playing through this thing, you feel immediately in control. And a lot of people made the comparison to Kingdom Hearts, that you feel like immediately in control of what you're actually doing. Because in Duscae, it was kind of a reactionary combat system. You were kind of just responding to what was happening.
Yeah.
So it's more Kingdom Hearts 2.
Yes. Exactly.
Yeah.
So you feel,
because Kingdom Hearts was also very
oh my god,
sort of sluggish.
How many times did you press the triangle button? Here's how you win Kingdom Hearts 2. Hold the triangle button down. You won the game.
Tape it down.
Tape it down.
Yeah.
But no, seriously, the connection that you make, and you can instantly, like, everybody had the exact same growing situation with the combat. You had, your sword equipped on one, your hammer on the other, and everybody has tried this at least once. Sword, mid-swing, switch to hammer, finish them off with a hammer blow, and you're like, I can do that. I'm not waiting for the game to decide, okay, now you can use a finishing move.
Yeah.
You do it. That's exactly what a combat system should be.
Yeah, and I actually really enjoy the warp attacks. When I was fighting the fucking Iron Giant, I felt invincible using the fucking warp attacks, man. And some of those things do some serious damage depending on how far away you're warp attacking from.
Especially if you're using the shuriken, if you get that you become a god.
And I mean, even using the fire spell seemed to do a shitload of damage to the Iron Giant too. I had problems with it.
Did you use the fire in combination with one of the explosive barrels?
No, and I heard you could do that, but I find I will probably get used to it, and I'll probably figure it out eventually, but I was having a really difficult time aiming the spells and getting it to a point where it would actually hit things. So
there needs to be some sort of targeting for newer players, because having to manually aim it takes forever, especially when you're in the middle of a battle and you're surrounded by enemies. Like, I never used, the only thing in the large scale battles with multiple enemies was meteor rain, because that just killed everything on the screen.
Yeah.
By the way, while we're talking about it, if you don't mind, just one quick thing, because I'm sure people have figured out its existence, but in case you haven't, it's actually a hidden gold platform you can access in the playroom on the end table, directly opposite of where you start out. I should say down on the lower left part of the map. It's on top. You have to climb on the books on top of the end table next to the little armchair, and you have to push some blocks out of the way. If you have 250 the crystal thingies, you can use that gold plate, and it gives you meteor rain early, which I guess is cool. But
yeah, that's pretty cool. I mean, there was some things that I missed and stuff in my playthrough of the Platinum demo. I need to go back and play through it again because I totally missed the shuriken and all that stuff. So,
it's the kind of game where you play multiple times to get.
What were you about to say, Ryu?
I was saying I need to even play the demo, but then again, I also need to even buy the system. Still,
son of a bitch, Ryu! Come on, man.
I'm gonna do it, but it's basically I'm sort of waiting to see if there's gonna be a price drop because of all the 4.5 announcement fuckery. So,
fuckery indeed.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So moving on from that, magic is a resource and will have to be replenished, much like we've seen in Final Fantasy VIII. And I kind of noted meh to that because I fucking hate that shit.
Like,
just give me MP. Come on.
If
you acquire it like items, it might not be that bad.
Or if it's something like if I can understand making it a limited resource in battle, but don't make people go through the busy work of just keep buying it up. Like, yeah, if you have to do items to do it, that's one thing. Because like if you've ever played Secret of Evermore, that has a really nifty or magic system where you buy a bunch of consumables that you can find and you combine them to make spells, but you don't have to find the items. You can just buy them in bulk at the shops. And
if they give you that option, then that will be at least mitigatory.
Yeah.
Yes, I would agree with that. As long as it's not fucking like draw points. Like, I really enjoyed the ability to like speed up time and stuff like on those plates and stuff through the Platinum demo. But I hope that is not the way that you're going to acquire new items and spells in the regular game. God, I hope not.
Hope not. I assume the plates was just a gimmick to be techy. If those were actually in the full game, that's probably a terrible decision.
For sure.
But if I will say, because I know there's been a lot of negativity, and I'm sure you mentioned that obviously in the last one too, but everything has got me really hyped up the game. I'm really super excited about 15 now because of the Platinum demo, because of all these announcements. Uncover did a great job. That said, there's still stuff I want to see done, and so we'll just have to find out in September how it all went down. So,
what I really like about the spells is this feels like the first game where it matters, where AOE matters, and in at least in the realm of a first or a single player Final Fantasy. This is the first game where AoE matters with the magic.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I love the fact that you cast a fire spell and there's fire surrounding not only the enemy that you hit with it, but it's surrounding the area, burning down the brush and whatnot. So I thought that was really cool. And the fact that they showed in one of the trailers, they showed Blizzard being cast and everything getting frosted over and stuff. That's just really cool. That's a neat effect. It's about time they did something like that.
Yeah.
Magic can be synthesized to create stronger spells, i.e. fire to fire, blizzard to blizzard, what have you.
Thunder to cheese. We're not sure why they did that one. Cheese then upgrades to Thundaga naturally. It's just we think there's an error. We'll see if they get it fixed.
The trunk of the regalia, which is the car, offers storage for the party, which is kind of a cool idea. You will need money to buy gas every so often. The car radio will play various remixes of Final Fantasy music. Prompto will take pictures that you can share on social media, so that's pretty cool. I would love to see if he actually takes pictures from the air once you actually are able to convert the car to take to the air. That would be fucking awesome.
He'll probably do it mostly in battle.
I hope
also
not.
really like to see, did they mention if there's any kind of player control over when he takes photos?
They did not mention that. At least not that I can recall.
I hope there is, because that's kind of the main thing. Because otherwise, I get this image is going to be like, very people hunting down for a scene for him to get the photo of, and that's kind of irritating.
Yeah.
Well, at least there won't be people posting, cockshot selfies and shit. So.
But PS4 already has a share feature, so I'm sure we'll see that anyways.
I mean, that is the point of the share feature, is inappropriate pictures from all of the games.
Yeah.
Especially the ones that there's no logical way. Like, the most lewd photos from Katamari Forever, I mean, I can't even believe.
What?
All the balls. Just so many balls.
Okay, moving on from nuts.
I never said nuts, I said balls.
Oh, God.
Na Katamari Tamashi.
This is what happens when you have a sausage fest on the show.
No, this is what happens when you have me and or Carly on the show.
It immediately takes a sexual undertone. Immediately.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Imagine what happens when it's just me and Carly on her podcast.
Oh, I can only imagine.
They don't call it the Boomerang Squad for nothing.
Oh. Okay, yeah. Characters have specific abilities, such as fishing for Noctis, cooking for Ignis, photography for Prompto, and survival skills for Gladiolus.
So basically, even in his special ability, Prompto is still the most useless.
Summons will show different behaviors based on the situation, such as, an example might be a summon might choose to melee attack an opponent, use a special ability, or run away. Kind of interesting.
This fucking image of fucking giant ass Rama, overpowering, clearly can stomp on them, and he's just like, fuck this amount.
Yeah, peace.
First time you
don't pay me enough
fuck it,
for
I'm done.
This is below me.
Yeah. The first, your Marlboro one's a good one. How about the first time you encounter a boss of any kind? You're just like, fuck it, I'm done, out.
Oh, Jesus.
There are over 200 quests in Final Fantasy 15, and this includes leisure quests, the main story, monster hunts, and regional quests. Sounds like it's going to be a pretty heavy game.
Nice.
Final Fantasy 15 will open up with a battle as a tutorial, and the start of the game will be filled with familiar imagery before moving into a more fantasy-inspired world.
So that's familiar to our world imagery.
Yeah, real. I should have noted that as being real-world imagery, yes. Yeah. Different dialogue choices can lead to different outcomes. Luna's presence is to support Noctis and help him fulfill his destiny. And Tabata has said he has no intentions of producing a sequel. And I thought that last point was especially interesting given the fact that this game has spent 10 years in development and who knows countless millions of dollars on producing the game and no intentions of doing a sequel at this point.
But I think that's probably a wise decision.
No, I agree. I just think it's interesting.
Well, I mean, even if he does have plans, it's wise not to announce it at this point, because think about everything that's gone into it. First off, the last main series game we got was the 13 trilogy, and people got kind of sequel wore out over that. Lightning Returns, even though I think it's a really good game, people were getting kind of sick of it. And then you got this new game, which has taken, as you've all pointed out, 10 years to actually to fruition. And we had this massive announcement of a multimedia. Everyone has something for them. You've got your anime, your movie, you've got this, the whole game itself. You've got some new demos. You've got this mobile game. But the point is, at this point, they have sunk so much money into making this a compilation of Final Fantasy VII, but of 15, and releasing it all at once. before they even discuss doing anything else with it, after all they've sunk into it, they better start seeing a return on investment. And so far, it sounds like they have, because they're getting all these orders, which is great, but pre-orders versus units sold and everything else that comes out of it afterwards, that's, at this point, they have to wait and see. Because, I mean, great thing a game, let's see how it sells, and let's see if it sells up to their expectations of what they're trying to sell versus what they need to actually go on to, we were discussing this a couple of podcasts ago about how their idea of a successful business is the same thing as ours. So,
well, according to Tabata, it needs to sell like 10 million copies to be successful, which is highly unrealistic.
Yeah, that's the number is interesting, and when he says, like, are they talking about, like, or not the company will consider it a financial success, or whether or not it'll be a return on the investment, or what? Because that's...
Well, I almost wonder if he meant that facetiously, because it took Final Fantasy VII 20 years to sell 10 million copies. So, it's... I'm fairly certain he's comparing Final Fantasy 15 to the success of Final Fantasy VII.
I mean, they didn't even sell 10 million units over its lifetime of the PS3, which had like somewhere in 8 million units sold. They're expecting 10 million on a game. Like, that's... I hope it's a joke.
Well, and a lot of the 10 million, I'm sure, sold to Final Fantasy VII were people repeat buying the game in different platforms, too.
Yeah.
So... it's a lot of the same people repeat buying the game. And I am not saying that Final Fantasy 15 is not going to be successful at all, because I truly feel like it is. I think they're moving in the right direction.
Yeah,
I'm
getting it. I know you're getting it. Like, everyone's obviously going to buy it, because at this point you have to.
I don't want them to come out and say, "Oh, this was a massive disappointment because it didn't move 10 million copies." That's no. That's the wrong attitude to take about it.
I'm worried that if they're expecting these newer games to rest on the laurels of what came before it. So, and like I say, Uncovered dispelled a lot of my hesitance towards 15. Uncovered did an amazing job restoring the hype train. Fantastic. You've done your job, but you have to deliver the product. But you can't think of it as, this is Final Fantasy, so it has to sell X million units. You can't think of it like that.
I agree.
Because if you do, you end up getting 13. So.
No, and the thing is too that I think the reason why Final Fantasy VII is such a resounding success, it's not just the fact that people love the characters, because obviously they do. It's not just the story, even though people enjoy the story. I honestly think the bigger piece of why Final Fantasy VII was such a massive success was because it was the first on the next-gen systems that really showed off, like, the CG graphics, the CG movies and stuff. It was the first one to do that. And it was mind-blowing the first time you saw it. And I really feel like that endeared itself to the fan base because of that. It endeared itself. It set itself apart from all of its predecessors in that fashion. But since then, every Final Fantasy that's come since then has just taken that formula and tried to build on it and better it with better graphics and stuff. And that, to me, you will never top Final Fantasy VII unless you make you're able to make a video game that's, real. It's basically people playing in real life. You know what I mean? It's unfair to try to compare success with Final Fantasy VII, because you're never going to reach that level again.
And you risk creating this, as we've seen with 7, you risk adding too much to it, actually diluting memories of the original. Like, how many people do you know who have jumped on the I hate FF7 bandwagon just because of all the extra attention it's gotten, when you played the game for the first time, it was this masterpiece. Like, when the game first came out, people were already hailing it as, in some cases, like box art says, this is quite possibly the greatest game ever made.
Yes.
Which is a bold statement for a game reviewer to make, especially about something, a series that, yes, it was Final Fantasy, but you have to think, when a lot of people were starting out gaming, and we have, people who are massive gamers now, who their first console was like the PlayStation or the PlayStation 2. That was what they started out on. When
Yeah.
you and me started out with like the NES, or I guess in your case, a pinball machine. But sorry, I had to
Atari
throw the jab at you there.
2600 most likely.
So I think you were a 20. Dude, we had a 2600 in my house. My dad loved that game. Yars Revenge for 2600. Dude, that's. Anyways, I'm sorry, we're getting sidetracked. But no, the point is, when you've got a user base starting out, and RPGs up to that point, the more easy to access ones, which to be perfectly blunt, I feel like Final Fantasy, even in its earlier games, was at the very least easy to just kind of pick up and play versus some of these ones you have to spend hours in just setting up and rolling your character.
Dragon Warrior.
Yeah. But
Dragon Warrior is the grindy game.
Yeah.
Like, it still is. That's what it's going for.
Well, and like, there's nothing wrong with that. But when you're trying to attract the widest possible audience, you've got a game where Final Fantasy VII just kind of anybody could pick it up, could play it. There was immediate appeal because, again, it was revolutionary. It was the new console. It was new graphics. You could see that everything was moving towards 3D, which was amazing in and of itself. Also, it really, I think what it did more than anything else was, apart from legitimizing Final Fantasy, which up to that point, we'd only seen 3 copies in the US, and not that 3 was like a little known game. Obviously, it sold a lot of units, but I mean, as far as to your average Joe Blow, 7 just felt very approachable to somebody who was hesitant about playing RPGs, and I think that's one of the main reasons why it's lived on, because, like, seriously, do you know a hardcore gamer who loves RPGs who has not played 7 at least once, apart from Carly?
Yeah,
no, she hasn't completed it once.
Yeah, she's played it. She's played it. Yeah, but to your point, JT, I agree. I mean, and because it was the first, it's just become part of pop culture lexicon too. I mean, even people that aren't RPGers necessarily know what Final Fantasy VII is, or at least have some passing knowledge of it. And as far as pop culture is concerned, I mean, it made it into Robot Chicken. So, like, it's
7 is to RPGs what Mario is to, well, all video games, basically.
All video games, yeah. Yeah, it was just a phenomenon, and I don't see anything Final Fantasy related ever coming close to topping the overall success and love that Final Fantasy VII has. It's just not going to happen.
They'll come pretty damn close. Like 10 was very well received, but again, you just can't recapture that shift. The shift from 2D,
but it didn't have the success as far as the sales numbers are concerned. Though.
Oh yeah,
or the impact on the zeitgeist.
Yes,
but again, that comes from the technology shift. The frankly, from 2D to 3D was the big cataclysm of shit has completely changed. And at that point, all we've been doing is getting better graphics, change from 2D to 3D. Now, if VR finally kicks in, and with the Oculus Rift and all these other things coming out, it sounds like it's getting a lot more pickup. I've played with a Samsung VR. It's a lot of fun. Especially,
I have too.
By the way, pro tip, side note, get the game Sisters, play it. It's like a 5-minute horror thing in VR. It's amazing. But no, if we can get VR to the point where it becomes a truly viable gaming thing, none of these Virtual Boy bullshits, I'm talking like an actual viable VR. The first Final Fantasy in that might come close to 7, but until you have a massive cultural shift in gaming that it's riding the coattails of, it's not going to come close. I agree.
Yep, totally agree. And I think with that said, that closes up our conversation with the news and notes from the last couple of weeks. We did get some listener feedback as well, so we'll go ahead and tackle some listener feedback here. We'll start out with some emails. We got one email from a listener by the name of Aaron Chad. Aaron writes in, says, "Hey, I'm really digging these podcasts and find them interesting and entertaining while I listen to them at work. While listening to the Final Fantasy III retrospective, you talk about how useless it is to level up in Final Fantasy VIII. I bought the PC version of Final Fantasy VIII a while ago, and I'm about 23 hours in. I'm just wondering what the best strategy is for the game. I was pretty annoyed to find out how broken the system is. Other than that, the game's world is quite awesome. Whereas Final Fantasy VII was futuristic, grimy, and dirty, Final Fantasy VIII is like a clean futuristic paradise. Anyway, enough rambling. Keep up the good work, and I'm excited to hear about Final Fantasy V. Cheers, Aaron. First of all, Aaron, thank you very, very much for the email. We also are looking forward to doing Final Fantasy V whenever we get around to completing it.
Yeah.
So Aaron is asking for some advice on Final Fantasy VIII, so
yep.
I will let you gentlemen take this.
Mind if I
Just
go?
one line, Heart.
Okay.
Don't learn any of the Angelo skills except for Invincible Moon. Learn what the Armageddon Fist is. Have fun.
Yeah. Pretty much ditto to all that. As far as strategy, there's a lot of things you do. I'm not certain if you want a specific like battle strategy. If so, listen to you.
If at all possible, use card instead of killing an enemy so that you get the AP without the XP. And you get cards, which you can then convert into items.
Yes, and on that note, obviously you're about 23 hours in. When you get Ragnarok, Cactar Island, use that to boost your AP, and you can learn everything you need to know within a matter of maybe an hour.
Yeah.
But in terms of combat strategy, the thing I meant with 8, and this is true because everything else is so massively broken, never use magic. There's really no reason to use magic. Outside
Junction, I actually have a file somewhere of the theoretical best junctions you can make.
Link.
And that it's a very solved issue.
Well, you have
to
throw
link
it up
in
then
the show notes.
Because that sounds interesting because that can help a lot, I think. Pretty much in the game, there's only going to be, I'd say, 4 spells you're ever going to actively use. And they are Meltdown, Aura, Full Life if you die, although you have abilities like Revive and Recover to cover that. And occasionally, if you use Ultima and Meteor, along with Renoa's other limit break, which is spoiler, so I'm not going to get to it now. But there's another limit break.
I personally don't recommend using that one just because if you only have Invincible Moon, her other one is just so much better.
I concur, but if you stack her stats just right, she can become a 40,000 damage dealing machine with the proper setup. But I agree, ultimately, Invincible Moon is better because, frankly, and here's the thing. Another thing, Aaron, about how broken FF8 is. Most bosses you will encounter, you can defeat by just spamming limit breaks, which is what I recommend.
Oh yeah,
I recommend keeping everyone's health low, or if you have Aura, you can get Aura. You're 23 hours in, so you should probably have already come across a few Aura draw points. If not, converting steel pipes, I think you can convert them into Aura stones using Tool Refine, and there's a few other ways to get it. But definitely spam limit breaks, and if you can't get your limit breaks to function, spam GFs. And that's really all you need to do to win 90% of boss fights. There's a few mechanical ones. There's some of these ones that are a little bit trickier, and Reflect can be a bitch. But Reflect on GFs breaks, so go nuts. I don't think it even works on Selfie's magical limit break. Do you know if Reflect will stop those?
It does not.
So yeah, so
it will on her standard effects, but not on her special ones.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, keep Selfie in your party if only for her special ability. Wall, Full Cure, and the End. Those 3.
The End is great fun.
Oh my god, the End will literally kill any boss, including the final boss. So go nuts.
But yeah, no. With that setup, I managed to go through all of Ultimisia's castle, taking 0 damage in all the boss fights.
Wow.
I was invincible all the time.
Yeah, the system is horrifically broken. Oh, and learn the strength up abilities, give them to Squall, and stat something like Ultima or Flare to his strength stat, and then his Renzokuken will basically destroy any boss in a single hit.
And by the way, Aaron, if you were wanting more in-depth strategies and stuff, I might recommend, if you're not a member of the Lifestream forums already, you might go ahead and sign up. Sign up at the livestream.net, and I'm sure we will be more than happy to share more in-depth strategies with you on the message boards as well.
There we go. I found it.
Oh, good. Well, then we'll have this for you as well. Also, this is I don't want to spoil too much for the game for you, but first off, make sure you've obtained every GF before, let's say before you get to the end of disc 3. And there's some you can get after, but I'm saying just try to make sure you get as many as possible, and specifically focus your energies on learning certain abilities like Call Shop from the Toneberry stuff will come in very handy in disc 4, and level up and level down I think also from that. But yeah, follow Ryu's guide. There's a lot of good shit in there. I'm sure. I haven't read it, I'm assuming, because it's you. So
I mean, it's a very simple guide, but it's basically assuming that you know enough to spread out everybody's GF so that all of your active party has all of the junctions, and that you can get your access to the spells. But it's essentially just listing what they all do and where the thing is, and it's not a very complicated little fact, and we can throw it into the show notes. Since it'd probably be simpler than me reading it all out.
All right, perfect. So yeah, like I said, Aaron, thank you very, very much for the feedback and the email stirring up conversation about Final Fantasy VIII, which I'm sure we will get into much more in depth when we get to it in the retrospective at some point here. So, in the meantime, like I said, feel free to come on out to TLS and sign up on the message boards and come conversate with us and join the general Final Fantasy craziness. Our next piece of feedback actually comes courtesy of the Lifestream.net. Someone actually responded to the news post on the main page here.
I'll take it.
JT, you want to go ahead and take this one?
Yep. From Old Gamer Man 79. There are two ways to look at Square Enix Uncovered event. On one hand, it was exciting to see what has been going on behind the curtains. It looks amazing visually, and the movie and web series will be nice appetizers. On the other, more cynical hand, it was a huge mea culpa, purely intended to avoid a Duke Nuke. Forever-sized... a Duke Nukem forever-sized... That's right, there was a space, so I kind of read it wrong. I hope that we aren't all let down in a big way when September 30 comes around, but given the precedent set by other games with a decade-long development cycle, I'm nervous all the same. Comments about a more sophisticated PC port don't help. In the end, only time will tell. As of right now, the fan in me overpowers the cynic. Please take my money, but don't let me down. Thank you for reading this, and although I am new to the pod, I thoroughly enjoy it. If it is okay, I would like some of your listenership questions from the past in the future. By all means, we will read...
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Obviously, as you can tell, half the fun of this show is reading the comments and conversing with you guys who listen to our annoying voices. So yes, please, anything you have to comment on.
We can make them more annoying for you if you like.
No, that's all right, Ryu. I don't know.
we can definitely do that for you.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you very much for the feedback. To be fair about the decade-long development cycle thing, to be fair, it really hasn't been in development for a decade. It was a completely different game when it was versus Final Fantasy 13. And when they changed it over to Final Fantasy 15, that's only been, 2-3 years ago? So technically, Final Fantasy 15's only been in development for 3 years. So I guess to be fair, you can kind of take that from it.
And let's be even more fair, guys, because in the past 2 years they've had a lot on their plates as far as dealing with stuff. Because after all, in this time when they should have been working on 15, they've had more important projects like Final Fantasy All the Bravest, or Final Fantasy Record, or Final Fantasy Brave
Final Fantasy Artnix.
Or Kingdom Hearts Unchained Key. So no, not so much that one, but I can totally, and my heart bleeds for the cynic in you. Like, again, listen to the old podcasts. I was one of the biggest ones. But I agree. Like I say, I think this one has really done. Even if it is just a look, we're sorry, we fucked up. Let's make it. I am 100% down with that, as long as the final product delivers. And so far, I'm confident that it will. So,
totally agree. I think we're all cautiously optimistic, very cautiously optimistic. But if, to be perfectly frank, if the Platinum demo is any indication of how well Final Fantasy 15 is going to play, I am so happy with it already. So happy. So thank you again, Old Gamer Man 79. If you're not a member on the message boards, by the way, go ahead and sign up. We would love to have you on board for the fun Final Fantasy conversation. Next bit of feedback actually came courtesy of the forums at the Lifestream.net. Responses to the episode post. The first piece of feedback here came from Minato. Ryu, you want to go ahead and read this one?
I know there's no Final Fantasy X world map theme. I ain't the one that brought it up. Final Fantasy IV's world map theme was being compared to 6 and 7, which were acknowledged to double as character themes for Cloud and Terra. And one of you brought up those weren't the reasons it's not the best world map theme, and 10 was brought up instead, which, yeah, doesn't have a world map. As for Gabranth, sorry for not elaborating earlier, he's introduced as a collaborator to Vane's Deception, taking the place of Kingslayer Bosch. Then when we see him again years later, he's become the Emperor's right hand, spying on Vane, trying to be a genuinely loyal servant of the Empire, rather than just using his position to get back at Bosch. Then the Emperor Andres dies, and he becomes Larsa's protector. Then finally, the breakdowns at Pharos and the Bahamut, where he wants Ash to go to war with the Empire, just to prove to himself that revenge is the road anyone would choose, and expresses he doesn't deserve to live for working for the Empire, even though at this point in the game, the late Emperor Larsa and Trace were as much good guys in the narrative as anyone. Then he makes peace with his brother, and after his death, Bosch takes the name of Gabranth instead, making everything come full circle, and not just for the in and out of universe fun of it like with 9's ending. Ash is probably the best character in 12, while Balthier is the most entertaining, but him steadfastly being able to hold on to his honor, whatever his failure he endures, is only interesting when it's contrasted with Vossler, and in particular, Gabranth, who simply can't, and we see him improvise every way they can. When you talk about character arcs in Final Fantasy, that's what I'd go with, outside of Cloud or Tita. And then I'd ask Vader to go through Final Fantasy typo in English and Japanese to hear what you like better. With the SE store in Europe, for better or for worse, they did wait until the local work hours before making it available. I think that's with 9 specifically, or the demo rather. And he would like a lot more SE events like Uncovered, though maybe not highlighting one game only. But doing things. He like with Versus 13 and the remake, it's got to be one or the other, but more other installments can share the stage at once.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of piecemealing out we got to do with this one. This is a nice long one. Thanks, Tabata, by the way.
Yeah, for sure.
Can I address the first paragraph, because I know what he's talking about here? At one point, Flint commented on 10's world theme. And correct me if I'm wrong.
Wasn't he doing that?
I thought he was joking. I thought because there was no overworld thing. I thought he was making a joke there. If there was a quote unquote overworld theme of 10, you might argue that it's Spira Unplugged or whatever the proper name of that is. But no, I think he was joking. I think he's like because overworld, huh?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that was just a joke, man. But if not, I'm sure he'll correct me at some point.
It was a joke.
So
yeah, it was a joke. Trust me. As for his explanation about Gabranth, we actually asked him to expound a little bit on that based on his response to one of our questions in a previous episode. And yeah, I mean, for character arcs, I mean, for sure, Gabranth definitely has one of the more interesting character arcs, for sure. I don't know if it's more interesting than Cloud or Tidus, but yeah, I mean, I'm on board with your explanation about it. Everything makes sense. So yeah, nothing else.
Yeah,
huh?
I think that's it. Like I say, there's a lot of stuff you talked about, but I think that pretty much covers the bulk of it. And I agree. I think that massive uncovered events like this were awesome. And as far as sharing Limelight with multiple installments, I'm down with that, but like
I think Final Fantasy VII Remake has to have its own.
7
it has to.
And you mentioned that. Minato mentioned that you have to have your own there. But the one thing I will say is that a lot of the games that are coming out are these smaller mobile games or these smaller handheld titles, and stuff that doesn't really have as big a clout as some of these main series. Because again, it's really ultimately always going to be about the main series. And I know there are people who love the mobile games or who love their handhelds, who love Final Fantasy Explorers, who love World of Final Fantasy, and they definitely should be catered to. But I think when it comes down to the big meat, and maybe not necessarily the financial meat, but as far as the quality meat, it's always going to be the main series for me. So I feel like doing events like this are great, and yes, have some other stuff in there, but I always want to see what the next numbered title is going to be. So.
Yeah, I'm doubting that Final Fantasy 16 is in the works at this point, and if it is, it's in extremely early stages.
I don't think it is at all.
Yeah, I think they're holding their breath that Final Fantasy 15 does well first,
so they can make more sequels and make it something that becomes its own sort of mini franchise. Which, to be fair,
yeah,
they're playing their marketing. Like I say, they're playing their marketing smart on this. They're releasing it all at once, so it seems less grabby. It seems like it's less they're milking. Like I mentioned the 7 compilation, and in the back of your mind, as much as you might like the compilation titles, at the back of your mind, you got this little voice going, they're just doing this for more money. With them releasing all this at once as part of Uncovered, it helps kind of alleviate that. It's more designed as a hype tool than a financial tool, especially since 2 of the things that they're giving you are free.
They are still doing it for more money. It just feels less like they're doing it purely for money.
No, like, if you're going to manipulate me, don't make me feel like I'm being manipulated,
Yeah, and also in regards to Minato's comment to me about playing Final Fantasy typo in English and Japanese, I'll give it a shot. Although I will tell you that I already have a preference for the English because of interviews I heard done with the English voice cast on another Final Fantasy podcast series. So, mainly because I liked the voice actors themselves. So, but I may try both and see, and I'll report back and let you know which one I like better. Thanks again, Minato, for the remarks, and I actually thought we had more feedback on the forums, but apparently not. So,
Nope.
What we have left here is some comments that came through from YouTube. Let's take a look at these. We got a comment from Nina Lee, who says Final Fantasy XI was not a disaster at all. It didn't have WoW numbers, and the game itself was pretty punishing for casuals, but the game was amazing if you got into it and had people to party with.
I mean, like, I never played 11. It's just, I don't think it was a disaster. I think it was just not the explosive success that Square was expecting.
Yeah, and I mean, it's, if you're not an MMO person, it's hard to it's hard to get the appeal of Final Fantasy 11. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's or even Final Fantasy 14 for that matter. I am not an MMO person at all. So I just dislike the idea of having to party up with people and stuff anyway. I've never heard anything from anybody outright saying that they thought Final Fantasy XI was an unmitigated disaster or anything like that. Not like the original version of Final Fantasy 14 was anyway.
The thing,
so
11 lasted. It definitely had staying power. I think it had like 4 expansions by the time it wrapped up, and it, like, last year just had its like last additional thing. But a couple things on that. First off, 11 is not 14, and they're like both MMOs, but not even in the ballpark. 11 is a very old school style MMO, from what I've heard. I haven't played it myself, but my friend Rainey has, and she says it's really, really fun, but it's a completely different beast from what 14 became. And yes, 14 1.0 was a fucking bomb, but
Final Fantasy 12. If you've played Final Fantasy 12, you've played Final Fantasy 11.
Seriously. Part of that, but there's also other. I mean, obviously, there's a lot more MMO mechanics, which don't go into it. 14 is more approachable. I will say that, like, if you're not an MMO person, 11 won't turn you into one, but 14 might. That was the case with me, certainly. And I mean, to be fair, I like RuneScape before.
14 turned him out.
14 turned me into a money-wasting life ruiner of myself. But
I mean, I think you might have already been that.
Well, but I focused it.
Damn.
I focused it now.
Oh,
14,
okay.
like let's face it, 11 is like the kind of thing where a few hits to completely destroy your life. 14 is like straight up heroin, where like one shot and you're addicted. So, but yeah, no, 14 and 11 are different. And 11 was definitely not a disaster. I don't even think it was would be considered a critical or financial disaster in any sense. It wasn't explosive, not at all, but it had staying power. The damn thing lasted like 10 years. And it's still...
Hell, they had podcasts about it.
Yeah. So, and I'm hoping 14 lasts just as long. But yeah, I mean, 11 was okay for what it was. It just, a lot of fans were not expecting it, and it was breaching new territory. To give you an idea, 11 is actually older than World of Warcraft.
In other words, folks, it's older than dirt.
But it's not older than EverQuest.
Okay. You want to read the next one, JT?
Ragnarok Master. I'm glad so many enjoy the cover for 15. On that last subject of Luna, she looks much more mature in her Oracle outfit and walking with her assistant Gentiana. If you search for pics, Square did excellent art for her, which is why I can see why people balked at her Kingsglaive appearance, even if I agree it's okay to make her look more realistic.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't get why people are so bent out of shape about it.
Because
don't.
It's the internet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, fair enough. End of discussion.
Yep, that's all that needs to be said. Internet.
End of discussion. Fair enough. We actually already addressed Awato as far as her gender. She did, however, say that hi, finally caught up on the podcast. Love what you guys do. I don't know how to pronounce my name either.
From henceforth, you shall be known as Steve.
And she says, thank you for the shout out again. You are welcome, Awato. Ryu, how about the next one here?
So, Sijadon Bast, ignoring the first comment because it's redundant. I really enjoy your podcast, especially the retrospective series. I always mean to write up a long response, but never have the time. Just wanted to let you know I enjoy you guys and gals.
Well, thank you very much. Appreciate that very much, and I sincerely hope you find some time to actually write us. Write us an email. Join the forums if you're not already a member. We'd love to hear a response from you here. We love to respond to the feedback, so...
Compose
please.
A short novel.
Yes.
We'll read it.
We'll take turns.
On the podcast, in 10-minute increments,
Oh, yeah. In funny voices.
Or not so. Loco Crash says, I thought they were going to use the Incredible Hulk's ending song with Noct walking in the road asking for a ride. That would have been fucking amazing.
Oh, yes.
That would have been fucking amazing. In fact, I think I'm going to end this episode of the podcast with that song. Yeah. That would have been so amazing.
Well, if you told me that, I would have gotten my purple pants on.
Somebody needs to make that an AMV, like, immediately. Just needs to happen. Just
Sad Hulk meme. Sad Hulk meme.
Is it just...
Sad Noct just walking away.
But listen, no, hold up. Listen to the Sad Hulk walking away. I just did it in my head. This is, again, my music thing. Listen to that and think it doesn't sound kind of like Tifa's theme.
Can't hear it.
Yeah, a bit. Yeah, a bit.
So,
I could, yeah.
Anyways.
A bit. Gats22 says, pre-ordered the Ultimate Collector's Edition also. Glad you were able to actually get yourself a copy, Gats. Most people could not, so... let's see. Lucas Fox says, why don't you guys make more research before doing a podcast? Just to provide clarification, I actually do quite a bit of research before we do these podcasts. So, unfortunately, there are things that sometimes slip through the cracks or just beyond my knowledge or beyond our collective knowledge. We're all human. We make mistakes from time to time. So, If we miss something or we get something wrong, feel free to correct us, and we'll issue corrections on
Yeah,
Or
future
pretend
episodes.
like we knew it all along.
This is none of
It-
our
it depends on
full-time
our mood.
jobs.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah,
Yeah.
we are fans first and foremost, guys. So we are experts by no means. So
Yeah.
we had that guy on the forum who was talking about how actually one of our new guys, Avalanche, talked about how he listened to the podcast and he started joining the forum, talking to us in the forums because again, we're super cool people. You can talk to us on the forums if you sign up. And he was like, "Wow, I feel so starstruck." I'm like, "Dude, we're experts is a bit much. Star is right out." Okay, so but
I
Yeah,
don't know.
I mean-
I feel like I'm a giant miasma of incandescent plasma. I'm certainly a gigantic nuclear furnace.
okay, dude, we're breaking out. They might be giant jokes now. I think we have reached. There was the bottom of the barrel, and we dug that up, and we're like, no, we're going.
Okay.
So if we're below the bottom of the barrel, does that mean we're Dr. Worm? We're not real doctors, but we might be real
even
worms.
gets that reference.
Yeah, moving on.
It's been a long time gone
Yeah.
since anyone got that reference.
Yeah,
God.
moving on. So that is definitely all the feedback we got for this episode, and we thank you all very, very much. Anybody that took the time to write us, we encourage you to keep sending the feedback. We really enjoy reading it on the air and responding to it. So yeah, please keep it coming. This week's question for the listenership: how do you feel about Tabata's announcement that he has no planned sequel for Final Fantasy 15, and why do you feel the way that you do? Email us, respond to us on the Lifestream.net, let us know. I'm curious to hear how other people feel about this. So, and with all that said, like I said, we do want to hear from you, so send your questions and feedback to us at lifestreampod@gmail.com. You can also reply to the episode posts each week on the Lifestream.net forums. Please, God, please leave us feedback on iTunes. We don't get a lot of feedback on iTunes.
They're holding his family hostage.
Yeah, for sure.
And the only way they'll let them go is if you leave reviews.
Yeah. Please leave us feedback on iTunes. It's really the best way to help us get noticed here. So the more positive feedback we get, the higher we climb in the search rankings for iTunes. So please leave us feedback on iTunes, and we'll do our best, as always, to read your questions, comments, and feedback on the air. And all of that said, we'd like to thank you again for listening to the Lifestream Final Fantasy Podcast. Take care and always protect the crystals.
Even old Midgar was once new Niflheim.
What the fuck, dude?
Music on this podcast is courtesy of Incompetech.com.